Hey guys, before I get into the actual review for this convention, I feel I need to talk a tiny bit about all the controversy currently surrounding this con. If you don't know what I'm talking about, check the link in the description. What happened is truly a shame and should never happen anywhere, let alone a convention. But in this review, I can only go off of, and I can only talk about the experiences I had and my group had. Know that there are creepers and bad people everywhere you go, but it's in the minority of people there. We never had anything like this happen to us, even with 2 girls in our group. Both felt very safe at this convention. We only ran into nice people all weekend. I want people to know that from our experience, there is no reason to be afraid to go to this convention in the future. I'm sorry this happened to anyone. It's horrible, but know that it's a very rare case. How exactly do I feel about Momocon? Well, let's get started with the review. This video is powered by upcomingcons.com. For all things conventions, head over there. There is a link in the description. Momocon is a decently sized 4-day anime convention held in downtown Atlanta, Georgia. 2015 marked their 11th year and was the first year they used the Georgia World Congress Center and Omni Hotel as the convention's prime location. This was my first year at Momocon, and while there I heard a lot of people saying they liked the old hotel a lot better. But I found the new location to hold the con very well, if not perfect. There was plenty of space, big open areas, a nice outdoor area, plenty of places to sit down and hang out with friends or stop to eat. Speaking of eating, the main hotel for this convention, the Omni, which is attached to the convention center by a small tunnel, is also home to the CNN Center, which has a very nice food court, with something in it for everyone, so no one should have to worry about going hungry. Other than the food court, they also had a lot of different food stands set up all throughout the convention center as well. The only complaint I had is that they didn't seem to have a lot of places to get free water. Most cons have water set up at almost every turn. I recommend doing this for next year. Before we get into the con itself, I do just want to warn you about parking. We stayed in the Omni, the main hotel for the con. If you stay there next year and are not familiar with Atlanta, do not use their parking. It is valet only and will cost you around $30 a day. Look for the red deck. It's a much better price and is attached directly to the convention center. When we first arrived at the con, on our way into the hotel, we passed registration. It went extremely fast for us with no line at all. Over the weekend, the line never really seemed to get very long. I heard no one complaining about registration all weekend. So whether you're pre-reg or registering at the con, you should be fine. They have a great system going. Momocon had a very well-made guidebook for the weekend with an easy-to-read schedule and map of the convention. They also had a very well-made app for smartphones that was basically the guidebook in your pocket at all times. I recommend you guys check it out next year. It was very helpful. Even though this convention is a bit on the larger side, it still had a really chill atmosphere and vibe going on. I don't know what made it feel this way, but we all really liked it. Momocon had what I thought to be a spectacular lineup of guests. From voice actors to internet stars to musical acts, there was someone there for everyone. On top of this, their panels, other than opening ceremonies, which felt a bit boring and lazy, ran amazingly smooth. Most every panel we went to started on time. The cosplay contest started early. That never happens. If you've ever been to a convention in your life, you know how big of a deal this is. I also want to commend them on their AMV contest. I've never seen such a nice system for an AMV contest at any of the cons I've been to. This is how most all of the convention felt though. We all thought things ran very smooth and was very well organized. I also want to just mention the main events room in general. It was a huge auditorium with tons of seats and a balcony. Probably the nicest main events room I've ever seen at a con. As I mentioned earlier, this con had a nice outside area where tons of people just came to sit around and hang out. On Friday, they used this area to host a huge area for people to draw amazing pictures with chalk. We found this to be very cool. The dealer's room and artist alley at Momocon were also very well done. Though I've seen better dealer's rooms, this was still a pretty big one and had most everything you would want to buy at a con. I'm sure everyone could find something to waste their hard-earned cash on. Right across from the dealer's room was the game room. When you first go into the game room, you notice a ton of arcade games set up. This was super cool and fun while they worked, as they had to shut them off all the time. Most every time I went in there, they weren't working. As far as console games go, we were actually a bit disappointed. There was some good stuff in there, but there just wasn't really that much set up. It looked a lot better than it was. Now, I will admit, I know almost nothing about tabletop gaming, but the tabletop gaming area looked pretty great, a lot of tables and areas to play, as well as a ton of games to pick from. They also had laser tag set up in the game room. I didn't get to play it, so I don't know how it was, but this is still a really great idea. One thing I really liked was that their karaoke area wasn't stuffed into a panel room. Instead, it was out in one of the large hallways for anyone walking by to see and join in on. We need to talk about what probably was my favorite part of all of Momocon. On Friday night, they had a group trip to the Atlanta Aquarium. Anyone from the convention could go in cosplay. This made for an amazing night and amazing cosplay photo shoots like you can't get inside the convention center. I really hope Momocon does this again in the future, and if you missed it this year, seriously try to go next year. Momocon had 2 raves. First was the flow party on Thursday. The second was the main rave on Saturday. Both were fun, but I actually enjoyed the smaller flow party more. The music seemed to be better to me, and everyone was dancing together and really getting along. The main rave was really cramped, and if you wanted to get in, you had to wait in a huge line. Still, check it out next year. The size of this convention is large. Location gets a 10 out of 10. We felt the new location was very beautiful and held the convention very well, with nice wide hallways and tons of space. No complaints here. Organization gets a 10 out of 10. Everything seemed to run almost perfect. From what we saw, the organization at this con was about as good as it could get. The dealer's room gets a 9.5 out of 10. Though a bit smaller than some dealer's rooms I've been to, there was still a ton of stuff in there and without a doubt got the job done. The game room gets a 7 out of 10. It just felt a lot smaller than it looked. Half the time the games weren't working, and there just weren't very many games outside of the arcade games to check out. We often found ourselves getting bored in there very fast. Guests get a 10 out of 10. I really felt the guest list was top notch. Of course, it all depends on if you know the people who went to decide if you like the guest list or not, but it felt really diverse and felt like they had at least one person there for everyone. Panels get a 10 out of 10. Most every panel we went to started on time and was run very well. As far as panels go, this con had some of the best I've seen in a while now. Staff gets an 8 out of 10. I personally had very few problems with the staff. I think one time I asked a staff member for help and they were a bit rude, but other than that they were really nice. But I gave this an 8 because of how much complaining about the staff I've heard going on. A lot of people had troubles with them. Please try to be very nice and understanding toward your guests and everything should be fine. The rave gets a 7 out of 10. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't some amazing rave I'll remember forever. It just kind of was. I recommend checking out the flow party next year. I had way more fun there. Momocon may not have been perfect, but I still thought it was a very good convention with a lot going on. If you live in Georgia, it's worth the trip to come check this one out. Even if you live out of state like we do, I still think it's worth it. I highly recommend this convention. At the end of the day, I give Momocon 2015 an 8.9 out of 10.